Welcome back to the Art and Science of Real Estate Negotiation podcast. It's Tom Z with Traction Real Estate Mentors. Very excited to be interviewing Matt Kamp from DealMachine today. How you doing, Matt?
Doing great, Tom. Always enjoyed being on with you, man. So thanks for having me on the podcast.
My pleasure. You're here by popular demand, Matt, because we noticed that so many of my podcast interviews this season with successful members, students, and other investors, everyone's mentioned DealMachine, how they're using it to find awesome deals out there. I said, you know what? Let's make sure we do a special episode all on DealMachine, because this is one, folks, that you're going to want to be using.
Love it. Yeah. And that's something, I know we've loved being a resource for your community. And, we're really, really proud. We very much really focus on when people say, like, what makes us unique? The first thing we try to point to is our success stories and our customer ratings and reviews. We're proud to say we're the highest rated, most reviewed mobile app out there for people to find off market deals like that. So we very much say, hey, let's let our customers do the talking. And that's really cool that, you found a lot of our people.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. So let's start with two things. First off, introduce yourself, who you are, where you live, and then tell us what exactly is DealMachine. I know we're hinting at it, but if somebody doesn't know at all, what is it?
Yeah, for sure. So Matt Kamp over here. I work on partnerships at DealMachine here. I'm based out of St. Louis. So if you're listening to this in St. Louis, we'd always love to connect locally too. Yeah, DealMachine, just in general, just from a high level, you can really think of us as a tool to help you find off-market deals. And, in the end, that's what it comes down to. It's very much, kind of multifaceted in terms of coming in and helping you figure out, okay, how do I find the most motivated sellers in my market? So you've got a couple of different methods to do that within the app, and I'm happy to dig into those. Then the next phase would be, okay, now that I have a list of motivated sellers, how do I reach out to them? How do I get in touch with them? So we help make that extremely easy and use the power of technology to help you do that inside the app too. And then final piece would be, okay, cool. Now that I'm talking to sellers, how do I track those deals? How do I evaluate that deal? How do I make a great offer based on data and looking at things like comps? We've got all that right in the app right there for you too. And in the end, like, our mission is to give everyone the power of real estate investing. So we want to really kind of democratize real estate using technology. And it comes down to those three phases. So.
All right. I'm going to be blatantly honest, because
Yeah.
Some of the things I'm thinking of when you're saying that, I'm on record in the past as saying how much I generally hate's a strong word, but generally don't like most real estate software. It's always irritated me. People, oh, what software do you use to manage your business? I don't, right? I use a spreadsheet, I use my email program, and I use a classical calendar, because I've never liked any of the software because it's forcing me to do things their way or someone else's way. And I've never found it smooth and easy. So then I get challenged now. People say, well, but now you're promoting DealMachine. What do you like about DealMachine, Tom? I love DealMachine, but partially because it's not just, you can use it as a software that helps you manage your business, but at the end of the day, it's a functional tool. I'm not just sitting here updating a database. I'm out there driving for deals through neighborhoods and identifying properties and able to do things right there in the car or on the bicycle or walking or back home. I can do things to market to the property. So it's less sitting around updating a database and much more functional outbound software. So I will now say that there is a software I like, and it's DealMachine.
Amazing. Really, our view on technology in general is that, hey, it should be enabling you to better do your job, and the right actions to take, the real actions that are going to get you to deals, is finding people who are motivated to sell and then getting in contact with them and actually having a conversation with them. So anything else where you're just sitting back and just, clicking buttons and not updating things that aren't going to actually get you to those actions, that's bogging you down. Like, our whole goal is to help push you toward action. So appreciate you saying that.
Well, I don't mind, things change. I'll stand corrected when something new comes out and correct it.
Well, hey,
it's good that way.
we do really, we reinvest into our team heavily and really pride ourselves on how we've evolved as well. And we're always listening to people of what's new in the space, how we should continue to grow, and what else we need to be adding to it as well, and how to just integrate that really seamlessly into their current process. So I appreciate you challenging us, and we're going to keep evolving and rise to that challenge.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. So now let's go through some of all the different marketing channels out there. One of the easiest to get into, people, I don't know how to find deals, Tom. Start going through neighborhoods and driving for deals. Start looking for rundown, dilapidated properties. Look for properties with broken glass or something that's weathered and worn, doesn't look right. Yes, you say that, but being able to go do that with software assistance. So how does your software assist me in that process?
Yeah, and it's something, I mean, driving for deals, driving for dollars, like that has been around forever. That is not, we did not come up with that strategy. What we did do though, is that we saw a ton of people, and David, our kind of initial founder, him especially, he was getting out there, he was trying to do his first deal. He was trying to drive around and do exactly what you're describing, of literally taking a highlighter and highlighting routes on a map, and like taking a pencil and writing down addresses that he saw that were run down, and trying to do that in a safe way, even in a car, and being able to do this. And then when he would do that, he'd look and say, okay, let me look at more info about this owner. What's the situation with the property? Like, what's going on here with it? Why does it look like, why is it run down? And then if you finally figure out, okay, this is somebody I want to get in touch with, he would then have to take that extra step of actually reaching out to them, finding a phone number, or creating a postcard, writing it down himself. It was just such a manual process that took forever. And it's still been, it was then and now still the number one way that newbies land that first deal, but it just took forever. So he realized, man, the strategy is there. Like that, this is something that has been a proven process and tried and true. But I think, he had a tech background. So he said, I think I can take the power of technology and automate so much of this, so I can turn, a 30-40 minute process into a 30-40 second process. Right. Mm-hmm. And so he went through that, and be able, for him, it was driving around. The very first version was driving around, just making it really easy for you to add properties by just touching on them in the app. When you see an address in real life, just touch on it in the app and you can add it. And then, you have all this data at your disposal. He would look up information right there that he was pulling into the app to act on, again, pushing towards action, and then would reach out to sellers through a click of a button, through, whether it be skip tracing or postcards or things like that. We've got a couple options now, but, that was the end goal, of make it easy to find the house and make it easy to get in touch with the seller and look at that deal to see if it's worth getting in touch with.
I think that's one of the big keys. I mean, one of the big benefits of using it is driving for deals, like you said, always been a phenomenal source of finding motivated seller leads, deals. But the problem in the past was, when you went around and did it, if you spent an hour driving for deals, you basically built a to-do list, because now you had a list of properties you had to go do research on, look them up in the tax records, try to find an owner's name, try to find an owner's phone number, maybe send them mail. There was just it was a whole protocol. If you did it right, there was a giant list of things you had to do. So in many ways, you went around, the fun part of driving around looking at houses, that lasted that hour. And then you had, a 2-hour to-do list afterwards from that. What I found now is my 2-hour to-do list has disappeared, because I'm able to it's more like a to-done rather than a to-do. You tag them, that's it. You put them on a list, the automations fire, postcards go out, and I come home and I don't have that much more to do. I like it that way.
The to-done list, I need to use that. I love that. Yeah, but you're right. Like, in the end, it's a numbers game, and it comes down to just taking the right actions consistently and building out a system to do that. And that's where, DealMachine came from, is David did that himself. He kind of created that tech, to be able to solve his own problem. He built his own financial freedom with kind of the first version of DealMachine, and built up a portfolio, and then was like, man, this is something that I think a lot of people could really use. And that's where it was born.
So let's go through that for a second, Matt. Let's talk about this previous to-do list that you came up with and how it's all automated now. What is the step of the process? To say, I'm driving through a neighborhood, I see 123 Main Street. It looks a little shabby, a little run down. Maybe I'm interested in it. Talk me through the process of using DealMachine to attempt to turn that into a deal.
Yeah. So essentially through it, you kind of start off, and again, like you mentioned, driving for dollars, the main reason we really focused on that first is that, again, it's the number one method newbies are finding deals, but it's because you're driving around and you're finding properties that aren't necessarily easy to find. There's a lot of other ways to be able to get lists of leads, and, being able to come in and you can pull lists. You've got a lot of options that really only take a couple clicks of a button. We even have that option inside DealMachine as well. You can pull lists that way too. If you're somebody who doesn't have the time to get out and drive, or you can't figure out, if you're a little bit more of a passive investor, we have that kind of option as well for you. But when it comes to driving around, those leads are properties that don't necessarily appear really easily on one of those lists. They may not have a data point that says, oh yeah, a tree fell on this house last night. Like, okay, we don't have data to tell us that. So you're driving around and you're finding those diamonds in the rough that are less competitive because they're hard to find. And they're the most motivated sellers out there, because that is the number one indicator that they might be motivated, is that it's a rundown house. It's for whatever reason that owners isn't able to keep up with the property, isn't wanting to keep up with it anymore. It's vacant. There's could be many reasons why it's in bad shape. So DealMachine helps you come in there, and knowing the value of these leads helps you really easily drive around. It locks on your location on the mobile app. You drive around all around you, any property in real life, you can quickly, either touch on it in the app or use your phone to point to it, and it'll pop up right there for you. And then you can just look up, you can hit add lead, lead meaning it's somebody you want to get in touch with if you want to take that next step with that property. And it also has all that data right there for you. So you can dig in and see, what's the equity on this property? What's the mortgage situation? What's, when was it last sold? When you've got all MLS data, no matter what state you're in, is right there for you. So you've got a lot of data to act on, the ability to add that lead and start to build that list. And then from there, market to those leads, which we can dig into as well.
So lots of things to unpack in there. So you said it doesn't matter what state I'm in. It works where? All across America, every single state?
Anywhere in the US. We do have a virtual option for this too. So you have plenty of people who will be based in California, but wanting to invest in the Midwest. Cool. Like, hey, you can virtually drive for dollars, and it pulls in Google Street Image into DealMachine, where you can basically be like clicking for dollars. And it's pretty fun. It's like a little game that you can do literally on the couch while watching the football or whatever. It's
man, I used to call that a Google drive-by. Back in the day when Google first started putting, what was that, 2008 or something, when they first started Street View, a lot of times I'd be on the phone with a seller and I could take a look at the property and the neighbors by just going to Street View. And I thought, you could just drive around virtually and look for things. But then, of course, you still had to try to figure out what the property address was. You had to zoom in on the mailbox or on the curb where they had the number. Then you look back at the map. And then, of course, over time, Google started using technology to blur the numbers out of license plates on cars, but also tended to blur out the house number, which was really inconvenient. So that my old Google drive-by system went away, and but it was never that smooth anyway. And then now DealMachine comes along and makes it absurdly simple.
Yeah. And really the key on it too is, that's fantastic to be able to kind of look at the condition of the property and all that right there. But then we have, because you're using it inside the app, you have that data to act on right there. You can, immediately pulls all that other information in there in terms of, again, like equity and mortgage information, property information, all kinds of stuff to be able to really do a little diligence on that property. And then, again, it comes down to taking action, right? So, we have that next step right in there for you, where click of a button, you can skip trace, which meaning, hey, ping our database, come back with phone numbers. It's premium skip trace data. So you get, phone numbers to be able to text, you get email addresses, you could call right there. That data is like, hey, it shows you, is this on the do not call list? What's the caller ID? Is it landline or mobile? Is it connected or disconnected? Gives you a lot of info to know, if this is a quality number or not. So you can do that, in terms of taking action. That's one way, call, text, email right away. Or you've got the direct mail button right there too, where you literally hit start mail, and it uses the power of automation where you can just set it and forget it and say, hey, send them a postcard, once a month or once every 2 months or however often. And it'll just do that for you and, consistently mail to them. So that way you can get in touch with it in a variety of different ways.
So again, everything that used to be on your to-do list that took a lot of time, effort, energy, and quite honestly, when things take a lot of time, effort, and energy, they tend not to get done with most investors. So all that is now simply automated.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's the goal, is use technology to help you take the right actions consistently over time. And again, it's a proven process. I mean, we've had over 10,000 deals done using DealMachine. So it's just, don't reinvent the wheel, just get in there and follow the playbook, and, hey, you're putting in the right work. So
I like it. I'll tell you, the other thing that I found nifty and amazing from it was the ability to take your phone that you're running DealMachine on while you're in front of somebody's property, snap a picture of it, because good luck finding a phone without a camera anymore. They all have cameras. You take a picture of the property, that picture can be put onto the mailing that you're sending directly to the property instantly.
Yeah, the direct mail, I mean, that's for sure one of the, that strategy specifically is for sure one of the ways to really kind of explode your response rate. Like, you're going to get, typically double the response rate if you have a picture on there like that. But yeah, it prompts you right away, where if you hit add lead and you're in the mobile app, so it knows you're driving around, it'll pop up and say, hey, do you want to take a picture of this property? And when you take that picture, it'll automatically transport that onto the postcard. And if you hit start mail, when it prints out that postcard, it'll say, hey, is this your property? I do know if you're interested in selling, and you can customize all the wording on there too. But we do have default templates set up for you. So that way, again, the people that are doing deal after deal, a lot of them are using those default templates. So it's proven right there. All you have to do is just hit send mail and you're good to go. So
that's crazy good. There's no way I don't notice a picture of my own property in the mail. And there's no way that gets thrown out into the garbage can without being looked at first.
Yeah. And really the key to it all on that front is the consistency. Like when we look at the data around direct mailing, if you only send one postcard, just from a data standpoint, you only send one postcard, you're missing out. Even if it's a deal that's going to be done, like the right lead and everything, you're missing out on that deal. It's like 85% of the time if you only send one postcard. If you send 3, you're missing out on it like 52% of the time. So you're still not even halfway there in terms of giving yourself really good odds to do it. And the reason being is like, hey, you found a great lead, but you need to stay top of mind with them when they have an actual problem that you can solve, have an urgent need to actually sell this property. They're actually motivated, that they think of you because you've been the one that's been marketing this whole time. Like you've been the one staying top of mind with them. You've been the one they've been noticing the actual picture on their card, and before they throw it away, or you're at the top of the mail pile, your number is saved in their phone. Like you're kind of the call someday pile. And when that someday comes, like you want to be the one that gets that call. So, that consistency is absolutely key when we look at the numbers and the data on what works well. And, we want to just automate that. And that way you don't have to think about it every day. It's just one click, set it and forget. And there you go.
I love it. Those stats are massive, because I've often told people, everyone wants it to be a secret. Tom, what's the marketing secret? Well, what I've often told people is it sounds very unglamorous. It's repetition. It's multiplication of effort. It's hitting them again and again and again, drip, drip, drip. And so when you're saying that the amount of the statistical odds of it becoming a deal, first time, second time, and third time, which one's the peak, Matt?
In terms of what's like the ideal number of times to get in front of them.
Yes.
So we really recommend typically like 6 to 12 touch points is probably the perfect campaign, I would say, where you can be able to drip in front of them. And ideally, it's just to get real specific, every either 3 weeks or 5 weeks. And the reason being is it's not quite once a month. If you do once a month and it comes every single month around the same time, then it might get lumped in with like other bills. And, maybe you just picked a bad time to send it that month and it's on repeat for, to knock it out of that cycle. Whereas if you do every 3 weeks or every 5 weeks, it's going to kind of switch up the time each month that they get that postcard. So if you want to get completely perfect, it's like, hey, 6 to 12 month cycle and every 3 to 5 weeks, or 3 or 5.
That makes sense. I mean, there's magic in those words. And then that easy way of making it seem like it's flowing more naturally is just, set it to an odd number of weeks.
I will mention too, we get that question all the time, like, what's the secret sauce? Like, how do we land deals? The marketing, it's the consistency. And then the only other thing that I can say is really highly correlated to is if you can have additional touch points, like if you can have additional marketing channels. Like, yes, you want to do one, you don't want to go halfway on multiple. Like if you're not doing any of them well, you're doing none of them well. But if you can execute on, the direct mail and then throw in things like maybe you make some calls, maybe you do some texting or some email. Again, that's the skip trace option inside DealMachine. That's going to help you. We have actually a really kind of like a door knocking feature inside DealMachine too, where if you're on DealMachine Pro, you get the drive this list feature. And that would mean like, hey, if you're out driving around already, driving for dollars, awesome. Like you can take that extra step possibly and either knock on a door or leave a door hanger. That goes a very long way. The drive this list feature also is like a planned route essentially inside DealMachine, where if you have any other leads in there that maybe you pulled a list, maybe you imported those or added those leads yourself manually, you can drive this list and it'll give you GPS directions to drive that list as efficiently as possible and say like, turn here. Okay, here's one property, here's the next one. And it'll route you through that. And, if you can do those multiple things where you're mailing them and then you're mixing in one of these other marketing strategies, it's kind of like not a 1 + 1 = 2, but more like a 1 + 1 = 5 in terms of effectiveness, because you're hitting people in different ways. They're going to stand out and they're like, man, this guy's everywhere. And also think like, hey, some people are going to respond to mail versus a text versus, something in person. Like each person has kind of their different preferred method of how they're communicating too. So yeah, that's just trying to give away as much. So in terms of looking at the trends, those are probably the two main things. It's consistency and then how you layer in multiple marketing strategies.
Well, there we go. Consistency, repetition, and spreading out enough that you're hitting them multiple ways. I love it. Something you said reminded me of one of the other features that I found very amusing because it updated the old-fashioned way that I was doing things. I traditionally, pre-DealMachine, would buy the giant map book at the supermarket. It's Rand McNally or ADC or whoever made the giant map book of the region. And I would get a pink highlighter. I would get pink because there's a lot of yellow on the map. So yellow, pink stood out more. And when I drove down the street, I'd highlight it to check it off the list. Because after a while, all the freaking streets look identical. You can't tell the difference anymore. You've seen one house, you've seen a million, and you just start to lose your mind. So I would check it off the list by highlighting it. And then over time, you want to, you want to go somewhere new, go somewhere that doesn't have a pink highlighted route on it. But you guys took that, I would say, probably 17 steps further. And explain how you highlight routes and what happens to them.
Yeah, so the route tracking, that is a big one. That is for David, especially when he was first getting started. Like he would double back on his route. It'd be funny, like he'd drive down a block and then write down an address, and he was so pumped. He's like, this is a great lead. And he looked back and he added that exact address a couple of days ago. It's like, man, this is not efficient. This is not, I'm not using my time wisely here. So he, being able to kind of use technology to do that, it again locks onto your location, using GPS. You drive down the street and you see a little tail pop up behind you. And so you can look at the map and see everywhere that you've driven, that tail changes colors at 6 months and then a year out. So you can look and see like, oh man, it's yellow over here. It's been a while. Oh, I did some deals over there. Let me redrive that area. Or, it's red over there. Like, it's been quite a while. And you can kind of look from a bird's eye view at your community and figure out where you should be driving next and just make sure that you're using your time as efficiently and effectively as possible. Each individual route that you drive as well, you can go back and review those to see like, hey, here's where I drove that day. Or even if you want to go kind of the bird dog route, which that's a whole nother kind of, thing to, drive down. But if you want to add a driver to your DealMachine account, a bird dog on DealMachine Pro, you can have up to 3 total users. So you can add them that way. It'll track their routes too. So you can look at the map and see like, oh yeah, Tom drove over there today. Let me drive over here. And you can kind of coordinate and cover an entire city, team it up.
So yeah, in the old days, I would either have to pass the map book around to have multiple people use the same book, or everybody would have their own map book, and then I'd have to kind of see and combine. Not very practical. If I wanted to see when I drove somewhere, that would assume I bothered to write a note in physically on the map. And you're saying my pink highlighter, which would never change color after it was used. You're saying 6 months later, my pink routes turn to yellow, and a year later they go red to show me that it's aged out. It's been a while since I've done that.
Exactly. Yeah. And really, if you're really, really actively doing this, I mean, you can redrive areas, every 6 months or so and find fresh opportunities. So that data is super, super helpful.
Yeah. One more example of why I like it, because that's not burdensome. That's actually improving upon the classic process by leveraging technology the right way. It's not technology for technology's sake. It's technology because it's making everything I did so much easier and streamlined.
Yeah, making you a superhuman.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, becoming a super investor. With DealMachine, are there any limitations? I mean, I know we're making it sound wonderful and rosy and it's great, but any downsides, Matt? Let's be honest with people.
Yeah, I know, for DealMachine, I think we've been very focused on, so we have, again, like the driving for dollars, functionality, list builders, the other one for building your list, where if you're a more passive investor, you can do things like, pull up an area, get really, really specific on data and just overlap those data points, pull a very niche list, and then do things like start mailing to it. So that way it's pretty passive for you. I'll say that probably the main limitation is we've purposefully only focused on those couple marketing channels inside DealMachine to help you take action on. Whereas there's things like, there's, texting platforms out there, there's, website builders, there's, online marketing, there's, a lot of call centers, there's a lot of other kind of marketing solutions that are out there that you could dig into and add on. But our main focus has been like, hey, what does that newbie to kind of scaling stage investor truly need? What are the channels that are going to help them the most and that we've seen work over and over again? And let's just be the best out there at that. And so that has been really our focus, our goal. We don't want to, we're not trying to, go too far outside those bounds. And, I would say, and that's, you can see it as a limitation or you can see it as a focus, but I would say that's one area is like, we do get questions on, hey, can we text from here? Can we, is there a dialer? Is there, different things like that where, hey, we've really focused on just being very, very good at these specific, avenues and help you go land deals that way. So, hopefully that helps answer your question there.
No, that does. I see it. I see focus as a good thing because I think it helps people put blinders on. And the number one thing at the beginning, you've got to put blinders on is focusing on your marketing. Marketing is it's the lifeblood of the business. It's the foundation of the business. Everyone wants to learn, contracts are kind of sexy and exciting and exotic, and negotiations fun and good times. And I know this is the art and science of real estate negotiation podcast. I love talking about negotiation, but let me be really honest. You'll never get a chance to negotiate anything if you don't get your marketing right. You've got to find deals first so that you have something to negotiate with. So that's why this is a marketing discussion. And that's why it's so important to stay focused on your marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, in the end, they should, people listening to this, like continue to educate yourself. Having somebody like, I know, Tom, you're awesome in that kind of sales negotiation space. And I think that's what's been so fun to see in terms of people using DealMachine is that we can help enable them on finding leads and getting in touch with sellers. But if they've got like your skill set, they've got you to fall back on in terms of negotiating and they're educating themselves through your knowledge there, like they're set up for success. Like they've got, the whole formula there, right? So we've loved teaming up with you that way and appreciate you bringing me on for the, to talk about kind of that part of it. But if you're, investing in your education on the negotiation side, you're set up for success. But in the end, like you said, you got to have deals to negotiate to be able for that to be worthwhile, right?
You got to find them. Now, that's where I think, Matt, a lot of people are frozen at the beginning, like frozen in fear or confusion, or I don't know how to get started, or it's just hard sometimes to get moving. So I know, this is fun and exciting. It's an app, it's on your phone, it's technology driven. But is there a secret sauce to getting moving? Or is it just download the thing, put the app on, log in, and go walk around your neighborhood, drive around your neighborhood? What do you recommend to get people jump started?
Yeah, I think really the biggest barrier we see, honestly, is we lay out those actions. It's not rocket science. Like it's, hey, it's a numbers game. Find a lot of, find as many motivated sellers as you can, and then reach out to them in a consistent way. And you'll start to have conversations, and that's where deals come from. That's where, that's how you get rolling. A big part of it, I think, is kind of mindset for people and overcoming that analysis paralysis, really being able to come in and fully commit and say, hey, I'm going to really invest some time into this. I'm really going to actually take some steps. I know the magic number we see people hit is the number 100. Like we really try to get people to the number 100 when it comes to building their list of properties, because when they drive around and they find those first 100 leads, one, a dealer or a couple might be in there. We see people all the time land deals and, quickly. And, we've had people literally, one guy on our YouTube channel down in Texas, Quentin is his name. The fourth lead he called, he did a deal. Like it can happen. It's crazy. You got to get lucky in terms of, right place, right time. But he was putting in the work. He was putting himself in that position to take advantage, to be ready for that opportunity. Right.
Be lucky.
And to be lucky, like you said, to take advantage of luck. But what we see is if you can hit that number 100 to begin with, when we look at the data, you are disproportionately likely to stick with this and to keep going and to snowball. And if you haven't done a deal yet, that, hey, I'm putting in the right actions to go do that deal. So the first bite-sized step we tell people is just, hey, go find 100 leads and start consistently marketing to them. Like that is going to put you in a very, very good place. And the mindset behind that as well is, overcoming analysis paralysis. We want to give them a really simple playbook. So it's find leads and start marketing, and then be really okay with the phrase, I don't know. Like being able to come in and say that, where you're giving yourself permission to say, hey, yeah, like I'm going to learn through action. If I'm talking to a seller, I'm going to say, hey, let me get back to you in 24 hours. Or let me go back and ask my partner, and maybe it's Tom. And I come back and ask, hey, Tom, what do I do here? And being able to learn through reps and learn through taking that action, learn by leading first with action, no matter what the market's doing. buying right is the key to all of this. And buying right means going directly, to sellers and finding motivated sellers who are willing to trade you solving a problem for them for a good deal. So no matter what market you're in, if you buy right, you're going to be in great shape. Also, if you're wholesaling, like, hey, if you find a great deal, the money's going to come. Like that, a great deal. Everyone's looking for a great deal out there. That's the hardest part of this. So it's just kind of overcoming that and leading with action and being willing to learn as you continue to do that. So,
yeah, I find that to be key, and I'm glad you said it's put 100 leads on your list and watch what happens. When I did that in a 7-day challenge with you, we had 3 students come up with 5 deals.
It's awesome.
Which is, think about that for a minute. Some things right out of the gate, right off the bat, from simply going out and getting 100 leads on the list. That was the first part of the challenge. If that sounds overwhelming, I'll give it a little bit of a time. For me, in about 2 hours, we were putting around 45-ish leads on the list. So whatever, to 100, let's double that plus. We were running
4.5.
Let's call it 5 hours. And full disclosure, I was driving, but my son sits in the passenger seat and works the app. So it's fun for him. It's family good, but it also meant I could keep my eyes on the road and I didn't have to constantly pull over to do things. So, all right, fine. Yep. So maybe you're running a little slower by a few hours, but still, either way, we're talking a pretty minimal time investment. And if that's what everyone's concerned, I don't have time. Well, you can carve some time out of a week to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you woke up a half hour earlier, went to bed a half hour later, skip a TV show or something else, speed a few things up and just shave 15, 20 minutes out of your day here and there and hit the road and run the app, add to your list, watch what happens.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It truly is probably more of a mindset thing of you have the playbook again in front of you. It's worked a ton of times. It's easy to feel like you need to know everything before you get out the door and even take that first step. I always compare it to even say you want to be the best 3-point shooter ever and you're watching, thousands of hours of Steph Curry. You could do that all day, right? But unless you get out there and take that action, put in the reps, it's not going to translate to the court, So that's what we really talk about on our end is like, okay, what are those actions? What are those reps to get you there? Lead with that and you're going to learn through doing. And, even better if you have that safety net, you have that on-demand knowledge to fall back on, like, coming to this podcast or asking Tom questions or whatnot. So that's going to set you up for success even more. And it's been fun to do with your students, man. So
awesome. Well, Matt, let's share some gifts of things that we put together. So we've taken some of the challenge and webinar trainings we've done in the past, and we've enabled them to be on demand so that no matter when you're listening to or watching this podcast, you could immediately start driving for deals and making money from it. So tell us about, let's say, the on-demand webinar. What are people going to learn? Why should they go through it right now?
Yeah. So that webinar we went through, and there's really, that 3-step playbook of, being able to build your list of leads, being able to market those leads consistently. And then how do you follow through? How do you follow up? How do you come up with great offers using things like comps? And, we have like a little AI assistant now inside DealMachine that can help you out. Like there's a lot of little pro tips there that can really make sure that you come out of that and you have the full toolkit. You've got, we have a free trial to help you get it off the ground. We've got all that laid out for you through that webinar as well. And it's essentially a training to help you go from somebody who has never used this before or never got, you're brand new to real estate to, hey, now I know how to actually have the right conversations, get in touch with people, start to get confident about this and start putting in the work that it takes to get to that first deal or that next deal. So watching that full webinar right there, that'll, get you all trained up and ready to go.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. The link for that is tomzeeb.com/playbook. tomzeeb.com/playbook. And Matt, they can also use a 7-day trial on DealMachine with some double credits as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we give a 7-day free trial right there. If you get out there, start trying this out, be able to use it for free. With that, just because they're coming from you, we want to make sure we hook them up and really give them as much free of a head start as possible, right? So we gave them free skip traces and postcards as well inside DealMachine. So if you go through your link, or I believe you just use promo code TRACTION as well, either one will work. When you sign up, you'll get $30 in free marketing credits, which is essentially around 200 or so free skip traces or about 50 free mailers. So you can get out there, you can hit that number of 100 leads, for free. You've got skip traces and postcards to reach out to all of them for free. and, hopefully do your first deal in the first 7 days. We've had people do that. So
We have. In fact, one of the interviews on this podcast, Roger Schultz, during the 7-day challenge, he used the 7-day free trial and the free credits, and he converted it into a $17,000 wholesale fee.
incredible.
So it's very doable from free. The link to the trial is at tomzeeb.com/DealMachine. DealMachine, all one word. So tomzeeb.com/DealMachine. We got you guys hooked up good.
Love it. Yeah, man. And again, we're trying to give away as much of the free knowledge and playbook and tool as possible. But in the end, like, it's up to you guys to run with it. You're only a tool that, can make you way more efficient, way more effective in terms of how you're getting out there, how you're spending your time, how you're spending your marketing dollars, all of that. But in the end, yeah, it's up to you guys to run with that tool. So, go watch that training, go take advantage of the free trial, get rolling out there, and, happy deal finding.
Fantastic. Matt, if people want to get in touch with you directly, how can they contact you?
Yeah, if you just email me, just matt@dealmachine.com. I'm here to help. Our team through the app as well. Our support team answers in less than 3 minutes on average too. So we
awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we really, really invest heavily in our support team and helping you guys out there too. But always happy to help on my end. And want to, again, once you land that first deal too, like, we've interviewed hundreds of people on our YouTube channel that have landed deals using DealMachine. Like, we love, if you guys are up for it, love for you to be the next one too. So reach out to me that way and we can spotlight you too.
Fantastic. Matt, totally awesome. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. Folks, any of the links we mentioned will be in the show notes as well. So it's tomzeeb.com/DealMachine or tomzeeb.com/playbook, and we'll get you trained up and get you going. Matt Kamp, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tom. Thanks for having me on, man.